All right, and welcome back. So in this tutorial, we are going to look at how to turn this contact form we just made into something that looks a little bit better, because as you can tell, it looks really horrible. And the way we're going to do this, of course, is with our style sheet. And the style sheet that we've got is Style CSS, the one we've been using all along. So we're not going to need to touch the HTML for now. We're going to go into the style sheet. I'm going to scroll right to the bottom, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a .form style for the form class. And we're going to set this up so that it looks very nice. Very first thing that I hate with the way that this is coming in is it's underneath the nav bar, which looks horrible. So let's fix that right away. Let's just put a margin on the top. Let's set it to about 100 pixels so that moves everything down. I'm not too worried about the padding on this because it's white. It's a white background. If it had like a colored background or a picture, then I wouldn't use margin. I'd use something like padding top. But because of the white background, we're not going to see that white space anyways. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm talking about. And also let's move it away from the side, because look at how tight it is to the side. It's just right up against the edge. So let's go with a margin left of about 20%. Let's do the same for the right, just so it's even. Margin right, 20%. Okay, save that. Everything moves off the side like that. Already it's looking a lot better. Problem is, if you zoom this up and make it bigger, it's going to always be off to the left, which might actually not be a bad thing. But let's do this. Let's kind of dress it up a bit, make it look a little bit better. We're going to put, let's put a border on this. And that border will be 1 pixel, solid black. Okay, so it shows us really what is inside of this div. Let's make sure we got some padding, because clearly it doesn't have any. So we're going to have padding of 20 pixels or so. I like 20 pixels. It's a nice amount. That looks great. And let's even give it, you know what, let's round the corners. It'll make it look a little bit more professional. Border, radius. Let's go with 20 pixels. That's going to round those edges nicely, as you can see. Okay, let's give it a soft gray background. Again, these are all things we've done before, and you know what? The great thing about CSS is once you know the values, I mean, you can, once you know the commands, you can go nuts and really change everything. So I'm going to go into the background color here. I'm going to set it to sort of a light gray somewhere up here. Save that. It's not great. Maybe it needs to be a little lighter. I don't know if I'm a fan of that. That's better. Just a real soft gray. Okay, that's not horrible, I guess. And you can see just with that right now, just with that, it looks great. Like, it's a lot better than it did before. But it's still not great. Okay, you can see that at full size, it definitely looks better for sure. Maybe let's do our, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll try it. All right, let's do our text align. So this will be everything. We'll center it. I don't always like doing this, but yeah, you can see how everything gets put into the middle of that block. It's not bad. We can leave that for now. We might change it, but for now, it's okay. All right. Not everything aligned. I can see that. So you know what? Maybe I'll take it out. I'm not a fan of it. It looks better on the left side anyways, at least in my opinion. Save that. Okay, so that's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually make the input boxes look a little better. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a new way of targeting things in CSS. Let's start with the button. I know it's kind of backwards. We should probably do the other blocks and stuff first, but let's start with the button. So we're going to do .form input as if we are changing the input tags. But what we can do here is we can use the square brackets to tell it which input we are affecting. So I'm going to go for the submit button here, and I have it in quotations, and then I'm going to put a curly bracket. So what I'm telling it is, yes, I want you to affect everything within the form class that's an input, but specifically the input type. Because if we go back to our HTML, you will see that, oops, sorry, the contact, you will see that the input button, the type is input. Okay, so it just checks to see what has that type. And let's do a couple things with that. First of all, let's change the color of the background maybe. What do we want to do here? Yeah, let's change the background color to black. Background color black. I like to save every step. Now we don't even see the text now, so we're gonna do the next thing. We'll put color of the text will be white. Okay, so now we can see it again. Let's make a margin maybe on top, because it is so close to that block there. Let's maybe make a margin of 20 pixels. We could have done a break there, but that'll move it down. That's okay. We'll do something like that. Let's give it a border radius of 10 so that the edges are rounded. Good. We'll put some padding in there. And I'm going to show you a new way of doing padding. This is interesting. So when you want to define all the padding of an object in CSS, you can do it all in one line. Okay, and the way it works is it goes like this: top value, bottom value, left and right. Okay, so let me show you. So if I do 9 pixels, then I put a space, then I put a 25 pixels, then I put a 10 pixels, and then I put, let's say, 25 again. What that's going to do is that's going to create padding in the following order. We got top, wait, hang on, I think I was wrong. Top, does it tell me that? I'm going off memory here, but I think it's top, right, bottom, left, in that order. Top, right, bottom, left. So think clockwise. The way I can test this, I can bring this down to 10. Let's see if it affects the left edge. Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's how it works. It's in clockwise order. So top, right, bottom, left. Okay. So that's how you can do all the padding instead of doing padding top, padding left, padding right, padding bottom. You can do it like this, and that'll include all of them in one tag, one line of code inside of your CSS. What else can we do here? Let's take off the shadow, because I'm not a fan of the shadow on the, I don't know if it's going to work, but we can try just saying no shadow, none. Doesn't look like it affected anything. We'll take off the outline because it might have an outline on. I'm going to say none there. Okay, that didn't seem to change too much. But another thing we can do, this one may not make as much sense, but we're going to do a WebKit-appearance. It looks like it's telling us it's not valid in this case, so maybe it's not going to matter. But yeah, it's not changing anything. So you know what, these last couple, I mean, we'll leave it for now, but it doesn't look like it made much change there to the box itself. Another thing that I think is really cool is when you go over this, again, it doesn't really show you anything as far as what you can interact with. The mouse cursor sort of stays the same. Over the text fields, it changes to a text cursor. But on the Contact Us button, it doesn't really change. It's just a regular arrow. We can go in here and we can actually change the cursor so that when the hand goes over, it changes the cursor. So we can change it to a pointer, for example. We can save that, and let me show you what it did now. So you can see that everything else, now it becomes the pointer finger, just like the buttons up here. And it just lets us know that that's what we're supposed to click. So That's pretty useful to have that in there so that you know that that's a clickable feature of the form. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to stylize this area, which is the input areas, the text areas. And here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to show you something I haven't shown you yet. Is we can what am I trying to say? We can adjust the styling of multiple areas inside of one class, okay, or inside of one area. And let me show you how that works. So if we do form input and we were to go and style that, what that would do is it would restyle the submit button as well, and we don't want that to happen. So what we can do here is we can say, okay, type equals the text submit, but then we can also press comma and tell it that we also want this styling to apply to the text area as well. So if you look back in the HTML, that is going to affect all the ones that have the type text, but also the one that has text area. And if you use comma, you can create styles for multiple things in one block rather than making separate blocks for everything that you're trying to style. So if you have things that have repeat styles, just add them to it. Just add a comma and just add them to it. So you just have one block for all of it. Okay, so for this one, what we're going to do, and again, this is for these areas. First of all, let's put a margin. I don't know if this is going to affect it much, but we're going to put an auto margin just to see. It didn't really change much. Okay. Let's put a put a border on these. Okay, so a border of 1 pixel. Don't worry, it's going to look good in the end. Just trust me. Solid black. Might look weird at first. Okay. And oh, you know what? I didn't put a colon there. I was wondering why it didn't look right. There we go. Now we got those black borders showing up. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put padding. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to go 11 pixels by, let's say, 25 pixels by 12 pixels. I always go one more on the bottom because I find that the top is always a little smaller for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Save that. Now you can see that they've increased in size. They become bigger because of the padding, which looks nice. Let's put a border radius on them. I don't know why I like rounded borders. Ugh, I can't spell tonight. Border radius of 5 pixels. Okay. We can even change the font size of the text that gets input into there, and we're going to put 14 pixels. Something like that will make it look better. And then we can adjust the letter spacing, which again, it's similar to line spacing. Line spacing is the space between lines of text. Letter spacing is the space between the letters themselves. So we go 1 pixel. There we go. The color of the text is going to be black. Okay. And I think let's put a margin at the top. Even though we told it to have an auto margin, we're going to do a margin at the top of 30 pixels. That's going to make it look a little better. Maybe not. You know what? I kind of liked it spaced. Let's get rid of that. I'm not a fan of that. I like it together. Okay. One other thing you can add is if you are ever worried about a box becoming too big, and I don't know if this would apply in this case, it was just something I was thinking of, you can tell it to have a max width of a certain amount. So if you don't ever want it to go bigger than a certain amount, like let's say never bigger than like 100 pixels, that will kind of lock the thickness to, as you can see, it can't get any bigger than 100. I would set this fairly high. I'd say, okay, maximum width is like 500. Okay. you'll see that this is going to stretch it out as far as it can until it hits this, the padding on the side of the form, which we have here, the padding of 20 pixels. So I always use this because what it does is it forces it to kind of stretch out all the way. Without it, let's just see the comparison. It works the same, okay? But I'm going to show you the difference. If we stretch, if I take this line out and I save it and I stretch this window, those boxes are going to stay the same size as they are, okay? And that might look okay. You might be all right with that. However, if you do have the max width 500 and you save it, oh, you know what? In this case, it's not going to work because these were set to 30 already in the HTML. We could stretch this out to give ourselves more room, and that is where it's going to lock in right there at a maximum of 500. It's not going to let us go any bigger than that. Okay, so you'll see that that works just fine. Okay. Let me just refresh that because I don't want it to save like that. I'm not sure if this works. Oh yeah, it does let us go. You know what? I'm not a fan of that, but how many people know to pull the corner? I don't know. But anyways, so yeah, that form looks great. It's definitely a lot better than it was before. Like I said before, if we want to center everything, maybe we will. I know I undid it before, but maybe we can do a text align here and just center it just so it puts everything in the middle. I don't know if that looks better. I don't like the way this looks, so we could make a separate thing for that. Regardless, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's a form that is complete. And you can see now if this was actually active on a site, you'd be able to fill it out and contact the company. One thing, though, that I do want to change here, and again, hopefully you guys are still following. It's not good practice to have your page go right to the bottom, especially if you have a footer. So like I showed you before in my other video, always add a bit of a margin at the bottom of the page, and that's going to get you out of that sort of situation. So like in this case, you'd never be able to submit the form because you can't click the button because it's behind the footer. So you'd put a margin for the bottom at let's say 100 pixels like that. And oh, I screwed up. I didn't hit one, sorry. Now you got room to scroll so you can actually hit the contact button. And guys, one last thing I want to tell you before I end this video is if you ever want to put all of your margins in at once, I think it'll work the same if I do like 10 pixels, 25 pixels, 10 pixels, 25 pixels. I think this will work. Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think it does. Yes, it does. So that's another thing, just like with the padding, you can do the same thing here. I'm going to take that out. It was just to show you that you can do that if you want and put them all in one line. Anyways, forms are tricky, but again, once you play with it a bit, it's not that scary. Once you've built a few, it should make sense how it's working. Hopefully you'll get a form built, and like I said, we can't really make it functional until we post it on some sort of a web space, but again, that might be in an optional video later on. But for now, you've got a form at least in there that can be made functional later on. All right, next we're going to get into some simple animations, and we're going to make the website look really polished and finished off.